because we have given a lifestyle for which our body and genes were not adapted. So by going to trekking, you are going to that lifestyle for which our genes were programmed. Only negative side or the flip side of the story is that you have to do it on a continual basis or a perpetual basis. The day you stop exercising, be it trekking or any other exercise, the benefit cease. So one of the possible theories for genesis of diabetes, type 2 diabetes we mean, is that basically the defect, what we call insulin resistance, which is a basic defect in diabetes and metabolic syndrome and related components like PCOS, fatty liver disease, dyslipidemias, hypertension, is that this insulin resistance was an adaptive mechanism, because during ice ages there will be no vegetation. So you know the carbohydrates come from vegetation. So the only source of energy for the humans was animals. So they would take their meat and fat would give them energy. But there are some organs in the body, like brain, like gonads, your reproductive organs, which need little bit of glucose all the time. So body developed a mechanism of preventing the muscles, which are the main consumers of energy and glucose, from using this glucose. So because when we eat carbs, it's converted into glucose, absorbed in the bloodstream, ultimately reaches the muscle cells, where it enters, where it is converted into energy. But to enter the cell, it has to pass a gate. There are various receptors like channels, what we call the GLUT. So this is GLUT4 channel through which glucose enters the cell. So this gate is controlled by a key called insulin. So body developed this in those ice ages, it is said, though there are some opponents of this theory. The adaptation was that body would develop insulin resistance, that insulin will not be able to unlock this gate. So glucose would not be used by the muscle, and whatever glucose they had, carbs they had from maybe honey or something, that will be used by the brain. So it was a perfect survival technique during the ice ages, when you were only on animal diet. But when, I think 10,000 years BC, when cultivation started, wheat started getting cultivated, we started getting a lot of carbs, and then came industrialization in 17th, 18th century, which got use of machines. So we could use these machines to get more crops. And then came the storage technology. That normally whatever you would get, you had to consume it or distribute it or throw it. You could not use it for next year. But then came the storage technology, these deep freezers, cold chains, other things. So you could preserve this food. So suddenly there was a surplus of carbs, and this would be obviously converted to glucose, but body had developed this insulin resistance to prevent its use. So suddenly our tissues started getting flooded with high levels of sugars coming from the carbs, which we use in Indian scenario. The 70% of the diet, 65 to 85% of the diet is carbs. And if you do exercise opens those channels through which muscles can use glucose without insulin. So there is a IMGU, insulin mediated glucose uptake. Then there is a non-insulin mediated glucose uptake, NIMGU. So NIMGU will happen with exercise. So as long as this person is exercising, he can consume this excess carb which is converted to glucose. But the moment you stop exercising, the Nimugu channels will be stopped, your insulin resistance will come back, insulin sensitivity will go down, and sugars will start again going up. And when you have a continuous demand on the system to produce excess insulin, because insulin is not working, so ultimately you get insulin deficiency. So the pancreas starts getting burned down. When pancreas is beta cells, the cells, islet cells, beta cells which produce insulin, they say when somebody is found to have hyperglycemia or diabetes or prediabetes, it is at least 4 to 7 years before the process started. Some say even 10 years before the process starts, but you can't detect it because glucose level will be normal, but body will be using too much amounts of insulin. So ultimately there is a deficiency which progresses, though there are many factors which can delay this progress or hasten this process. And exercise, losing weight, taking low carb diet is one of the ways to preserve your remaining beta cell function, islet cells which produce insulin. There are some people who give a contrary argument to this, but this is one of the well-known theories.